right. All right. Good morning, Twitch. Good morning, YouTube. Today we're going to be doing another painting series. Today I've got my next in my group of Star Wars Legion miniatures that we're going to be working on. This one is a Shoretrooper and another Shoretrooper. So we have currently what we've done so far is we have a zenithal highlight from the top to the bottom. So you notice that the top has some white, and then the bottom has some like darker gray. So essentially simulating a light source and shadows. And we have the pants, basically all areas of brown as well as black, like these weapons have all been done. So the next thing we need to do is to be taking this guy and getting some tan onto him so that they'll eventually look like this guy. So that being said, the first thing we're going to want to do is to prepare our tan color. So to do that, I'll be starting with this Vallejo's model color buff. If I get that into the camera. And then we'll be doing like maybe 80% of this. And then we're going to add a little bit of white to it. I'm using this white, but really this is a titanium white, I believe. But any white will do. And then we'll just do a tiny hit. We're probably thinking like 5% pastel blue, just to desaturate it a little bit, just to like tone back a little bit, to get a little bit less of this like orangey look and a little bit more of just like an actual tan. As always, all of the color schemes and strategies that I'm using are from Sarastro's painting channel, so all credit goes to him for figuring out how to do these. He's a great teacher, and I'm just a student mimicking what he does. So I'm going to show my paints here. Let's get that. We're going to be using this well right here. So shake the bottle up a little bit. Just realized my camera's a little bit crooked. Let's fix that up a bit. Alright. Shake this up. So, we're just gonna put a little bit in here. Not just a little bit, like, for me it's like just enough to get into the entire well pretty much, because we're not super precise with this white that we're gonna be doing, and we have a lot of surface to cover on the miniature. And then we'll take a little bit of our white, like that much. Tiny amount. And we'll finally shake up our pastel blue. And this is the smallest amount, because anything too much and it starts to look a little bit gray. So like really do like a little tiny drop in, like the smallest drop you can get out of the bottle. And then see where that leaves you before continuing. We always thin our paints with a little bit of water. So I usually just add the water at this step because it lets the paint mix a little bit, plus the amount of water we need is about the same. I'm putting in like 5 to 6 brushfuls, maybe even 7. This is an older brush, so be sure not to do this with your good brushes. This is a long retired brush. This was my first brush that I ever bought. So rather than using a visual guide, like rather than counting your brushes, usually what I do is I put the paint out on the palette and see kind of roughly what sort of consistency it has. I would say that you kind of want it to be like, it still needs to hold its shape a little bit when you're like stirring it and stuff, but like currently it's flowing really easily, but it's still staying where it originally was. And that's pretty much the consistency that we're looking for. Is we don't want a consistency that's going to glob up a bunch, but we do want to be able to like manipulate and move it around the miniature while staying there. We don't want it to be like running. We don't want it to leave where we place it, but we also don't want it to clump up. So this is like sort of that consistency. Now I'm going to take this brush, which is, I'm using a Rosemary and Kolinsky Sable Series 33. Let's see if that camera can focus in on it. Yeah. This is pretty much the main one I use. This one's a new one. I just replaced it. That's like the main one that I use most of the time. Then next, all we're just going to do is like give the brush a little bit of a dampness to make sure that it comes back to how it was. And then we'll just dip it a little bit. I'm going to move this palette out of the way now that we're done mixing our colors here. Just going to dip a little bit in there. Not too much on the brush, as you see. And then I usually do a little bit off just to make sure it's still flowing, and then we'll get started with getting our color onto the miniature. I just usually, there's no real particular order you have to do this. This is all the same color. We just start from the top and work our way down in this case. Pretty much all areas of armor, pretty much all areas that have not been painted are going to be painted in this set. By the way, good morning chat. How's everyone doing today? Thanks for tuning in as always. If I hold it like this, will you still be able to see it? Yes. And, you know, it's okay if we make mistakes. You can always clean those up later. We're aiming to do this in about 2 coats. That way we don't mar the details on the figures. Be sure to be frequently cleaning your brush. Actually, I think I'm going to move this water here. Better. I was a little bit nervous about mixing this color by hand for each figure when it's such a, like basically each session having to mix the beige again. Because I was worried about it being inconsistent. But at least in this case, we're gonna be adding washes or like citadel contrast shades to them in the next step. So that's going to pretty consistently, it's gonna pretty consistently like darken the miniatures in a way that's gonna make them pretty pretty, what do you call that, uniform, cohesive. For example, it looks like this mix here is a little bit less saturated than that one. Actually, what we can do is we can fix that. Fix that with just a little bit more pastel blue. A tiny bit, not too much. Be very conservative with it so that we don't make our mixture too crazy. Do just a little bit more. Now you see it dark, a shade we're more used to. This camera setup seems a little bit better than last time, so pretty happy with it. So I'd say it's a little bit more tricky to paint in this setup, but it's not too bad. Like you can even see on my camera that the camera's right here, so I just have to like work my arm around it, I guess. Let's yeah, that's a little bit better, isn't it? For those of you who are very new to painting, remember that the brush needs to be going like this on your hand. So always be trying to find an angle. Oh, sorry, let me move my hand down. Always be trying to get an angle that lets you move the brush like this on your hand. You don't want to be doing like this much, because that's gonna mess with the bristles. The bristles are done in a way that you get a point, and you want to be able to maintain that point. So doing it along the brush at all times, when as much as possible, gonna let you maintain that. Second coats are mostly going to be needed on the dark areas, because I don't think this mix that we have has enough pigmentation to fully cover like a black section. I usually get in, it's probably a little bit excessive because I'm a little bit paranoid about it, but I usually am in a habit of every time I go for more paint on my brush, give it a quick rinse. Because that means that anything that is currently on the brush could be considered like dried paint. And you don't want that. So sometimes I don't. tricky because it's a little bit hard even for me to see where the where the visor begins and where the helmet is. But usually what I'll do, it's kind of like coloring actually if you think about it, which is I'll just kind of outline where the border is with my brush, and then I'll move inward, fill it in, basically. Also, when you're working around, like say a gun in this case, just remember, don't move too fast. You know, just keep calm and patient. You don't want to accidentally like shake and get some paint somewhere where you don't have to get it. Let me grab my water real quick. Throat's a little dry this morning. Alright, now we're going to get the underside of this visor. Or it can be a little tricky. I'll start from this side. Put it away. We don't have to get like all the way under, because there is a black bodysuit technically underneath, kind of like a stormtrooper. So because of that, it'll eventually turn into that. And our purposes, we don't need to be particularly precise with where that change happens. Go. Right, there's one little see, we nicked the gun a bit, but that's okay. Yeah, you see, we nicked the gun, like, right there, but that's okay. We can, fix that a bit. Alright, start working our way down the body some. So these panels we want to work around, so let's first sketch out what that border is. So you can hit really small edges. You can get those with like the side of the brush. You're just not supposed to be doing it for like really, really long or large surfaces necessarily. Not too bad. This part back. Looking pretty good. I don't know about y'all, but for me, one of the benefits or like things that I really like about this is the idea that it's kind of like, to me, miniature painting's almost like sculpting, or like sculpting out of marble, say, where it's like at least the imagery that you have of it, and like historically how people would do it back then, was that you sort of have like a big hunk of marble, and then you'd have this big old hunk of marble, and then sort of as they work on the figure sort of emerges out of it. So you'll have like, you know, if it's halfway through the process, you might like have at the bottom half is still just like a block or like a cube of marble, and then but then the top half is like, say, a man or something emerging out of it, a man or a woman emerging out of it. And miniature painting to me is sort of like that, but for like color coming out of a black and white object. And that's partially just because of the way that I do my priming, but like really, like, it's priming anything, right? Like if you prime it in any color that you are not going to significantly have on the miniature, then it sort of feels like that. Because you're sort of like coloring everything, and it's like watching a coloring book or something slowly get filled in. And that's, to me, that's just relaxing. Since this is a base coat, we're going to want to get, I left like the vents on the back of the helmet, but for other grooves, you're going to want to fill them in at this step because it's still a base coat. Should have been more prepared today. I left my coffee on the other table too. Let's grab that. It's one of my girlfriend's mugs. It's a good one. this time around, I'm actually experimenting with... So last week when we painted it, we did one once over of the base coat, and then we came back and went over everything again with a second coat. This time I'm kind of experimenting with being a bit more thorough on the first pass through. We're still doing, at the end of the day, 2 base coats, but there are some cases where we don't need to. And I guess what I'm trying to do is just do one area, then move to another, let the initial area dry, and then come back, see how it looks visually, and decide if we're going to put another coat on it. This is actually a pretty good example. I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick it up, but there was a black splotch from when we were doing the black sections of the inner bodysuit. And because of that, this first coat is not completely covering it up. Not sure if that's visible to the camera or not. If I angle this. Like right where the shoulder meets the shoulder joint, I guess. Probably not super clear. Maybe when we get 4K video. I don't think my phone can handle 4K right now, but I'll probably make an upgrade next month or two. Also, shout out to my coworker at work who gave me the suggestion for repositioning the mobile cam to be from this direction, from a more point of view. Let me know, y'all, if you prefer that better. Currently, for me, it's been actually surprisingly easier to work with, and I feel like the shot is a little bit more informative of like what I'm looking at. Maybe not what I'm looking... Yeah, it is kind of what I'm looking at, because as I angle it to get my brush somewhere, my brush is always coming from the sort of the direction of the camera now. So, whatever I'm trying to get at, you should be able to see pretty clearly. You don't want to hit this elbow here. That is black bodysuit. Back now to the shoulder. Back up. While we're here, this is a good time to do it too, because the paint is mostly dry, which is why we can do it again. But it's not like 100% dry. It means we can kind of blend it back into the other base coat. So it doesn't look very much like, oh look, here's where they did an extra layer. This is a section where you can run your brush like this, because it's super flat, kind of hard to get to the other direction. Also, I'm always interested in any duty-free or royalty-free music. Free use, I guess. Just anything. It's a vibe. Yeah, it's a vibe. Morning, Veters. Yeah, it's this is a pretty chill stream so far. I get so like caught up in the focus of this that I find myself not reading chat as not looking at chat as frequently, for sure. This song slaps. I had someone at work sort of do this, and it'd be really funny to do the equivalent of it, but for this game. But essentially what happened at work was he was a contractor who was really good at what he does. Like so I'm a software developer as my main job, and I've been working on iOS the last year. Learning how to do iOS mobile development, and we got a really, really smart contractor who really knows what he's doing and like blogs on the subject and stuff like that. It has a tech blog on the subject, and during a code review, which is where for those that aren't in the industry, is essentially where any work or like code that you write actually has to go through like a peer review process where people basically just look at your code and say like, oh, you know, you think maybe we should do this differently or that differently, and it's just sort of like it's a two heads are better than one kind of mentality. So really there's nothing wrong with it. It's like it's totally a good thing. It sounds bad because everyone's judging you or something, but it's actually a really good like process. This guy was in a code review and basically made a point of like, oh, we should be like, the standard is to do it this way or something like that. And in support of his argument, he linked a reference, but the reference was to his own blog where he explains the subject. And I was like, man, what a power move by this guy. So I was just thinking, like, when quarantine ends, if I have like a beautifully painted army of Star Wars Legion, I'm playing with someone, he says like, oh, I really love colors that you have on this guy, or like, how did you do this one or something. Imagine the power move you can do where you're just like, oh, it's all on my YouTube channel. Here's the link of how I did this specific figure. That would be so funny. Like, I don't know. It's like, that'd be really fun to do. Uh-oh. Brush was too wet that time. Sometimes I get more brave if it's like a flat area, and I'll put a little bit more paint on my brush. The intention of like spreading it out on the area. You can do it because the paint's been thinned enough anyway, so it's not gonna bump up. In about 30 minutes, so we'll want to double check that the consistency still is looking good for our paint, and that we haven't gotten used to something that's thicker as it sort of slowly, you know, evaporates. All right. Do the next arm. One of these arms is actually, if y'all following closely or Star Wars fans, the equivalent of asking to likes, comments, sub IRL. Yeah, seriously. It's like, you like what you see? Come check out my blog or come check out my YouTube. Like, you play someone in a game and you beat them, and he's like, if you want to improve though, come check out my Twitch stream. I had a, I don't mind like mixing subjects, so I had yesterday's stream was about Tekken. I was playing some Tekken ranked, and a content creator that I know, Peter Mao, he popped in. He's a channel that I go to a lot for like learning how to play my character, Brian, and he basically offered me some like coaching on a specific matchup. And so we were on a Discord call during the stream, and that was like, especially because of quarantine, I haven't really had the chance to like go out to locals or anything like that, obviously. And I'm like the only person in my friend group who kind of super seriously plays Tekken. We have one other person, but they're on PS4, which is not usually the platform that I use. I use PC, and then on top of that, like, connection between us is not the greatest, so it's like kind of hard to like justify as well as find time to like play together. But also, like, if we were to assign a dynamic for that one, I would probably be more like the experienced teacher and he would be the student. So I don't really have any like mentor figures in that space for when I'm learning. So I'm sort of just like self-teaching myself, you know, just trying to get there on my own. And I was so excited to talk with those other people in the Discord during that call and stuff. But it also just kind of like, it's kind of a shock, you know, like you know that you have to improve, you know, because you are at a certain rank or at a certain, you know, the game is saying you're at a certain percentage of players, percentile of players. So you know there must be something that you're doing differently or wrong, or something that you can improve on so that you can increase. So for example, in my case, the last I checked, my rank is like something in the upper 20 percentile, but that could have changed. And so it's like you tell yourself like, oh, that means you're like kind of good, right? Or at least you kind of know what you're doing. But like, what is it that I need to do to make it to that top 5 percentile or something? And then when people from that group that you're trying to enter come in and they look at your gameplay and they watch you, and they're sort of almost shaking their heads at the way that you play, because they're just like, oh, you know, look at all of these beginner mistakes that you're making. On one hand, you're like, wow, there is so much I can improve on. I've been looking for like the one thing I can improve on, and it's like really hard to pinpoint it. And then these guys come in and tell you there's 20 of them. It's both a very exciting feeling, because you're like, wow, there's so much more I can improve on, and also like kind of gets discouraging, right? Because you're kind of like, you know, like you're climbing I love that mountain climbing analogy. You're climbing in a mountain and you're like, I wonder if I can see the summit, right? Like, is the summit close? Like, I really want to see it. And you're really excited to see the summit, and you finally do. So you're excited, but the summit is so far away. It just really just blows your mind. I guess it's like that for a lot of these long-term things. I also like to learn languages, and it's kind of the same, where you kind of have this realization halfway through, you're like, dang, I'm really not good at speaking this language, even though I've been able to get like so many of these original like thoughts and ideas that I want to say out. It's like such a labor, and then on top of that, there's still so many things that I can't talk about, and that's like it can be discouraging, but I guess you have to like try and be elated by it. By the way, what I'm doing here with the arm, this arm has a lot of little holes on it, and no matter how much we thin our paint, if you think about the way liquid works, if it gets into a tiny hole like that, it's not coming out. So you're just going to run the risk of basically making that hole go away. We don't want that. So what we're going to do, what we did, is we want to run our brush over the top of it without any of the paint globbing up and getting in. So in order to do that, what we did was we made sure that we were at the end of our brush's like paint level, and then we just ran the flat of our brush over the top. Kind of like dry brushing, which is something we haven't done yet on the stream. It's sort of like dry brushing, but a little bit more controlled, and because our raised area is so pronounced that we don't really have to like hit it or anything like that. We can just run it along the area that we want it to be on, and it won't go into the lower areas. This here is exactly why we use some sort of a mount for a figure. It's because we can very easily like hold and reposition. Like, think about the leverage that you're getting from this compared to if I just had my fingers on the base holding it. We get a lot more leverage this way, so we can like get it the exact angle that we need. Actually, I took a peek at a lot of the content creators that do figure painting, and a good amount of them use this product by Games Workshop that is essentially like a gigantic clasp that you can like basically like think of it like in a woodworking shop or something, like a brace that you would put things under. It's kind of like that, like a clamp for miniatures, and you put the miniature in there, and it's a big old holder that you can do it in. I was just thinking, like, makes sense because, like, you know, probably promoting things and stuff, but like, I've been using this since before that came out, so I already had my films, canisters, and sticky tack, so I don't need to make that kind of an upgrade. Plus, this way I can have as many of them as I want. I can have like multiple figures in parallel, rather than having to fiddle with it over and over again. So I guess if you're a baller content creator, you can just have 7 of those $20 braces or whatever. So I guess that'll show me. Now we're going back and getting our second coat down on this area, because we can see now that it's dried, that it's a little bit still darker than we wanted. Pretty decent. Probably go back over that later, but I think do that underarm one more time. That underarm needs more. Wouldn't say that I'm relearning how to paint, but I am learning how to work around this camera a little bit in a way that's like I'm able to still do what I'm trying to do, but it's also useful for your viewers to kind of actually see what I'm doing. Hey, Azure Fender. No, today, Sunday is painting, so no Brian today, sorry. The schedule that I've been sticking with is essentially Saturday I play Tekken, and then Sunday I do this miniature painting, and then Thursdays is like a what do you call that? Like a free play day where I do a playthrough of something. So currently Thursdays has been Resident Evil 7's, like a casual playthrough of that. So no Brian today, sorry. I'll update my stream schedule for what exactly is going on Sunday, because I don't think it's on there right now. But I mean, you're welcome to. You've been playing Resident Evil 6? Yeah, Resident Evil 6 is a pretty interesting one. So I would not call myself an expert on the franchise for sure, because like I pretty much played, like my intro to the series was all the like 4 through 6 ones, which were where the game was sort of starting to get a little bit modernized. They were almost getting the like Assassin's Creed treatment, where the game was sort of changing what it was about, or like its character, I guess. So 6 was definitely the epitome of that, with like running up and like throwing down like tables so that you can get cover behind them and stuff. But it was a fun game still. Pretty convoluted story, which is very Resident Evil. 7 and like just like the new reimagining that they've done with like the remakes and stuff has been quite the trip though. I'm terrified of those types of games, and I got this weird masochistic streak, and then my close group of friends all have a sadistic streak, so that just combines in everyone wanting to watch me play those games and suffer, so that they can watch it for entertainment. Looks like we nicked an area we weren't supposed to, but that's okay. We can always go back in and correct it. That would be a pretty interesting. That would actually be a pretty interesting crossover. Like, what if there exists? Well, it doesn't even have to be like a unpainted one. Like, we could paint a Brian or something, like a Tekken figurine. That'd be pretty entertaining to do. It doesn't have to be. There's also people do like repaints and stuff. You could take one of those miniatures and like one of those figurines that you get at like, say, game stores and stuff, and just do a repaint of it to be a little bit more detailed. It's decent to me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I missed part where I'm supposed to be doing these little bullet things in brown. Alright. Making some pretty good progress on this guy. I am not looking forward to doing that chest, but maybe now's the time. Pretty tricky to get into. We'll just stay slow. Alright. Yeah, I think that's right. I was just getting a little bit confused about what part was supposed to be what on there, if I was painting it right. For these sections, I would say just paint what you can. Obviously, try to do everything that's visible, but focus on just getting what you can down and then seeing how it looks, because it's not a very visible part of it. I wonder what's a good way to advertise your stream schedule so people know exactly what you're doing. Can you customize the Twitch notification so that they know when you get online? Like, I know there's like a notification for when you go live. I wonder if you can customize the notification to be like, hey, we're doing this today. That's actually correct. We're good with that. Yeah, these inner parts can be really hard to do, but we're just gonna stay creative. We'll just keep finding an angle that we can approach it from. If I was cooler, I would probably be, probably would have, like, what's the word? Left the arms unattached. But I figured I can do it, so I decided to give it a go. It's gonna be a little difficult. Okay. I think it would be totally forgivable to also just not paint this section. For example, I'm getting a little bit onto the gun now, so I'm gonna have to fix that later. But it's worth it to me. I think I'm one of those, like, I'm the type of person that would paint the inside of a vehicle that can't open. Be like, I know the engine's painted correctly. That's not good, right? That means something's wrong with me. Means I'm special. Trying to be as good as I can with this camera angle, but just bear with me for this section, because it's a little bit... Alright, I think we got it. Oh yeah, there's one little section there. And this will all be helped immensely when we do the shading. on. Time really flies. I'm always like, I think this is one of those activities that trips me the most up on time, just like how quickly it can pass when you're focusing on something. Because like I'm always looking and being like, oh wow, I'm making like really good time. I'm doing this way faster than I did last week. And then I look at the clock. I'm like, oh, maybe not. kind of funny. Guess we're getting into that flow state. See, I'm just checking what I'm looking at for one of the pieces. Yeah, that is a beige piece. Alright, it's time to add more water to that. That is getting thick. The 2 C's. Let's get some of our water here. Add it to here. I guess I'll bring this into the view for y'all so you can see. Just try and get like a bunch of water on here, and I just kind of shake it in there and stir it up. Pretty good. Oh, let me move my hand. Yeah, see how that consistency is what we're looking for. Yep, that looks good. I'm gonna have to think a little bit of how I'm going to show paint mixing on here. This is a little bit tricky. Underside of this thing. Part also be this color. Nice. Oops. That's looking pretty good. We've been nicking a few parts, but overall I'm pretty happy with that. We need to, there's this one last part we need to do on that belt. Right here, there's like a little strip of beige. More like that strip of brown is only one strip. So everything else is beige. Go from this direction so I don't hit that bandolier. Does that even count as a bandolier, I wonder, or is it just like a few bullets? What am I doing? I can't even see. Let alone y'all. For a second I had a wild idea of strapping my phone to my head. And I was like, now you'll get a true POV what I'm looking at. But that's probably insane. Not what we're doing. Tax falling off. That'd be pretty funny though, like GoPro painting. I know some like gaming streamers, they'll do eye trackers. Seems like a pain to set up with like a separate camera though, so it's like seems really hard to like calibrate it when I'm gonna be like moving my head around constantly to like look at things and stuff. Different than just edging out in front of a screen. Nice. Nice. I just keep looking over the figure and making sure there's not something that I'm missing. I wasn't blocking the camera, just much better. Yeah, see, he's starting to like pop out now. Really starting to look like an actual figure now that we picked out all of that beige for him. That's the best part. Maybe the best part is when you get your base coat down and then you put a wash down and it's like in a couple seconds your figure looks really good. Just like goes from looking good to looking great. That might be the best part. Okay, we want our paint as thin as we can here. We have a lot of grooves, but we actually want those grooves to be painted this time, because we'll eventually be going over them with a wash. And that will give us the shade that we actually want. By the way, Veters, thanks for tuning in every morning to mod. I'm not sure what your sleep schedule is, but I really appreciate it. These leg shin guard gator things are really finicky. They're very rough. They kind of need a get a little bit creative to actually get like the coverage you're looking for. Better. Okay, the other side. The other side is a little less bumpy and ridiculous, so that'll be good at least. What I need as an upgrade to this table is lights coming from the other side of from my right side of the table, because currently they all come from the left, which means when I'm in this situation where I need to do this, my own hands and the handle are shading it and blocking my light. Go. I feel like for these difficult parts, that's where it gets really tough to make sure I'm staying in frame properly. But overall we're doing okay. Right, we're gonna go in from the back now to get this last part. I'm like super stoked that I feel like I hit a certain milestone with streaming the last couple weeks, where all of a sudden I felt like I was starting to get like traction and traffic and people were coming in, and like I feel like I'm getting used to like having the chat there, and it's just like really just what I imagined, which is you having a good time with an audience that you can interact with. And it's cool that we're having like people come in that I haven't even met in real life now. Like that's sort of, to me, that was like one of those first really exciting things, was having people that are interested in seeing you play and they don't even know you. Like that's when you know, like that's super gratifying, because now they're entirely judging you on like what are you putting forth, right? They're not just like pity watching, or just like, obviously I appreciate any friends that are doing that, and that means a lot to me as well for other reasons. But there is a certain like satisfaction. It's like, wow, I'm really doing it, when people like strangers are starting to watch your stuff. It was the same way with YouTube. Like I noticed on my analytics that there was this one guy, I must have gotten a fan. He was just systematically going through and like watching 2 to 3 hours of content every day and just working his way through all of the playlists and stuff. And that was really cool to see. So now all I need to do is make sure that like I don't like start to like tilt under pressure or something to like perform. Now I'm slowly getting together my birthday list, my own mental birthday list of like what I'm gonna next month, of what I'm gonna get to like upgrade things. I think I want to consider getting like a better mic, maybe better lighting for this, like get another set of lighting for this. Might also just be useful just to, yeah, I don't know, just some sort of lighting solution, better mic. Look into a capture card for when we're ready to try, like, say, Demon's Souls. Or even there's some other ones, like, I'm sure people want me to play Final Fantasy VII stuff, so they're all options. Hell, I can play other games that people have been waiting for me to play, like Nier and stuff, like all the older games. Well, on Thursday. Alright. It's been forever on that leg, but looks pretty good. Let's do the last leg, and then we'll start checking for any mistakes and doing some cleanup. This one seems a little bit less finicky to get to. That's good. Left flag. I need to pay attention to where my camera is. Oh gosh, it's getting a little wet. Alright, looks like we got that shin guard area that we need to figure out how to get to. I just realized y'all can't see that. I guess you can't There's a lot of the tutorials I see online. You can't like show everything with one single camera. Still worth it. Legs more. Side of the leg. Darken it up some. I'm really excited for the new Star Wars The Bad Batch that's coming out, because I'm really interested to see if there are any like products that come out for this game that like reference it or something. We have the requisite eras to do like either variation they want. We can do like an early Rebel one. They go that route. We can also go with like a Republic era for that. That'd be really cool to see if they do something like that. I think good ones to consider are just like more instances of, say, Tarkin. Tarkin would be pretty cool. This song is so sad. One of the greats. I think it's just the singing with no extra music on it that just like really gets to me each time. Like losing a son is just awful. Okay. Alright, let's look over this together. The coverage looks good to me. Let's look at the body. Oh, we're missing a little bit. The, what do you call that? Just like the side here, the kidney area. Those are also beige. So here. Shout out to all the Animal Crossing players in the chat. Classic. First time I heard this, it was legit like super late, and I like at night. I don't even know why I was playing it that late, but I remember being like, wow, I've never heard this music before. So strange. That's gonna be tricky. What I'm doing is like kind of crude, but basically I'm just getting a little bit of paint on the brush and then just threading it through that area and just painting whatever I hit. Also it. Not too bad. After looking at this again, I'm pretty sure that little strip is also beige. Let's get a little bit of a more even coverage over the top of this belt. Nice. Alright, so now we need to go through, do a little bit of touch up. I'm going to take my black here. I'm going to start with the gun areas. Whew. I would say normally you'd want to thin your paint here. any touch-ups, I am not doing. Because we're just like edges. Face looks like it can take a couple more hits. Any other touch-ups? Elbows are looking good. I think I need to hit it with some brown in those areas. Me getting a little bit crappy with my touch-ups. Here. Then, here. Yeah, let's touch up that face a little bit. Like we were saying, the face is one of the more important parts of the miniature anyway. What people naturally, visually gravitate towards. What is this? What is this song? That little, I don't know what that's called, but like we call it the lower lid of the eye. And that. helmet still has a little bit of that orangish tinge when we first started. Trying to move some of that out. If you ever see anything like crusty on the figure, just pick it up with your brush and take it off. Arm needs a boost. Now we're just essentially working our way around the figure. Seeing anything that just doesn't quite look as strong of a color what we were hoping for. Going back in. Yeah. Getting another coat. And also, if we see any more mistakes, you know, jumping in and tidying up those. Actually, I think that inner shoulder needs some attention. More black on there. Call that. Ugh. I'm gonna do a little more. That's making me nervous. We just have like a tiny amount of black on our brush. Yeah, that looks good. That's about what we're trying to do. A little bit onto the figure. That's okay. We're just going to work back over it. Work back over it with our base tone. Iterating process. Luckily, since our paint is so thin, we don't have to worry about like it building up and marring the details or something. As I wait for that to dry, I'm just touching up this back area that's a little bit uneven, or like not thick enough coat. Sometimes you have to angle it at different ways into the light to actually see like how much coverage you have. Because it might be good from one angle, and you look at another, you're like, oh, now I can. Ha! We've missed that entire part. Wow. Sometimes it takes many passes before you see something. Better. Let's go back to that shoulder. Get a bit more attention. All right.
Let's go.
I'll try and point where I'm looking. Yeah, you want to look at it from every angle you can. Because we're painting to just above tabletop set. So this hand needs work and this area needs work. I have a little pokey tool here. I make sure I pop this bubble. They don't dry a film over it. And this hand here, I want to just darken it a little. This one's pretty prominent, like the one that you see. That needs to be a bit dark. Do another once over. We're just going to keep doing this until we don't find any places that look like they need work. And then we'll eventually have some self-control and say, we're done here. We've done enough. Action does not want to. Well, I think I feel pretty good about that. We'll eventually be painting those arms red. Not that arm, just this one little shoulder pad right here I think is going to turn red, if I remember correctly. But overall I'm pretty happy with that. So we have some extra time, so how about I show y'all a little bit of what my cleanup routine looks like. So you can see this water's gone, so we're not going to use this water. But we have the water from, swap that out with this one, just a little more fresh. And this is going to be the water that we use to clean our brushes. But the way we do that is I'll first show you, I do this for both of them, even though this is an old brush that I have that I use for like the slightly heavier things. So throwaway mixing brush, we just like rinse it out and then hang it up on this little thing here. I'm going to show it on my face cam, or I'll show it here. It's just a little hanger thing for your brushes. So all the brushes hang that way, they're hanging vertically down, but the real part that you care about is I'm going to be using this brush cleaner. I didn't use this before. I started using this when I bought a new one, bought new brushes, but essentially it's soap for your brush. So let's first do it on the older brush. So I take it in some water, and I just swish it around in the water. And then when it's still slightly damp, put it into this brush cleaner. We'll just swirl the brush around, kind of like you're trying to reform the tip. And you're not using a lot of pressure, but you'll see that some of the paint starts to come off into the soap, which is good. You can just do that a few times. And then what I do is I just rinse it off. I take it in the towel here and I just try and reform the tip, and then that's it. And yeah, like the instructions on here say something to that effect. Rinse it, whirl it into a lather, and rinse and repeat as necessary until clean, and then you rinse at the end. So now we're going to take our good one. The handle on this one's a little bit longer. It made the handles longer since I last bought them, I guess. Do this one a little more since it's a good brush. I'm gonna make sure we're effectively cleaning it. And again, we're running it along this like this so that the brush is like tip is staying. See? Looks like a good tip. And we'll hang that up, dry. It will separate some, but once wet again, it will reform that tip very nicely. Okay. Past that, we're pretty much done. Just to recap, we took a figure that looked kind of like this one. It was like a black and white one with just the browns done, and then we were able to add a tan base coat to pretty much the entire figure. So it looks like this. So once again, thanks everyone for watching. I know that for now, this content is not super interesting because we have 4 more of these guys to do that need to be done. And what I'm going to try and do is be as consistent as possible with my colors, so I want to make sure that they're all in the base tone before I move forward. That way I'll know if I'm like slipping and making it too dark or something. So we'll be doing these next ones, though a few of these, like this guy here has a little bit less beige on him, because some of these are black, so it might go a little bit faster. But yeah, so once we've done that, we'll probably be moving on to the shading step, which will probably be getting several more figures done in a step, maybe even all of them. So yeah, catch me next week on Sundays at 9 a.m. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Happy Easter.